Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, the new Star Wars films that are currently in the works by George, John, and Dave Filoni. That's really going to mix together both Star Wars Legends and the already existing Disney canon material. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, we are currently in a very interesting phase of the franchise, given that the Ahsoka Tano series is currently being developed. A lot of work is being done for the sets of that series. In fact, they are going to begin filming in just a couple of days from now. Rosario Dawson has been training for the role endlessly, as well as Hayden Christensen, since he too is going to have very involved sequences in the Ahsoka Tano series. Now, moving on from all of this, we already know that Disney and Lucasfilm are very busy with a handful of new Star Wars TV shows and new Star Wars movies that are coming into the equation here for the new universe that's going to really fulfill a lot of the highlights from Star Wars Legends, and that's their overall plan, is that they want to actually cherry pick the highlights of the Legends stories. We're talking about Shadows of the Empire, the New Jedi Order, the Thrawn trilogy from the 1990s. I mean, there's just so much material that they are drawing from and putting that into the form of live action. In fact, the Ahsoka series is going to be the biggest Star Wars show that's going to have a lot of Legends references and inspirations. So on top of all of this, what's really intriguing has a lot to do with actor Pedro Pascal. Now, there's been a lot of things happening with Pedro Pascal for the past month, give or take, involving not just The Mandalorian Season 4, but also one of the brand new Star Wars projects that have been in development for quite a while right now. Now, specifically, now that both Disney and Lucasfilm are developing the Ahsoka Tano series as they begin filming in just a couple of days, creators Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are actively involved in a host of new Star Wars shows and projects to be announced at Celebration this year and next year. However, for a while now, actor Pedro Pascal has been creating a lot of drama behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm. It's noted that one of the other big reasons that has to do with his firing from the Bo-Katan series and getting replaced by actor Karl as Din Djarin to portray the character as well has a lot to do with, of course, everything that was done by Jon and Dave Filoni for the story, and with many of the story choices that Disney and Lucasfilm embraced. Now, specifically, it's described that Pedro Pascal was very frustrated with how his character wasn't really getting any action scenes in the Bo-Katan series that is now in development, and that Disney has new plans for Din Djarin to be a different kind of figure in the Bo-Katan show at the time when Pedro was signed on. Now, one of the major problems that Pedro had was that he was not going to be getting any extensive scenes with Grogu in the Bo-Katan show. Pedro believed that this was a deal breaker for his character and would only create angered fans. Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. I don't know about you guys, but I think that having a break from the whole Grogu thing, you know, the whole connection between Grogu and Din Djarin, I think is a good thing. I think it's a little bit of a breather in a sense, because I feel that if you do things way too overboard with the whole connection between both Grogu and Din Djarin, it comes off as a little inauthentic if they go overboard with that. Sure, I like the connection and all, it really makes a lot of sense, but they really do have to dial it down just a tad, if they are to be doing this in Mando Season 3 and 4. They might as well just give some, breathing room for the Bo-Katan series for Din to kind of find himself. And that's what brings us to this overall discussion right now, is that it's going to have a lot more to do with Pedro Pascal and his issues with, of course, how that character was being done. So that brings us to, of course, the core of all of this, is that Disney is looking to make Din Djarin a more independent character than ever before, using the Bo-Katan series by seeking answers from Mandalore. Disney is set to make Din Djarin almost like an investigator and a bounty hunter at the same time in the Bo-Katan series, and this is something that Pedro was very upset with. On a side note, it also had to do with him not having one shred of face time, which we already talked about, as Din Djarin without the helmet, and the fact that they actually lowered Pedro's income for the Bo-Katan series. So that's another thing to keep in mind here, is that they, yes, did lower his income for the Bo-Katan TV show in comparison to, you know, The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, etc., regardless of him just being a glorified cameo in a sense, right? Moving on. So, fans are going to be able to watch exactly how the Darksaber was built on screen, and that these visions will be seen through Din Djarin touching a strange object of some kind that is already storyboarded before they begin writing the overall script. The Bo-Katan series is also set to feature Din Djarin discovering that he is Force sensitive, or at least teasing the fact that he is in the show for the audience. So that's another thing to be aware of, is that we talked about this for The Mandalorian Season 4, that there's going to be sequences where it meddles with Din Djarin playing around with the Force sensitivity that he has, and in the Bo-Katan show, it's looking more likely that this takes place after the events of Mando Season 4. It's going to be about him actually discovering more about himself and his Force sensitivity. So this is all connected to Tar Vizsla. There's a lot of things being done for Tar Vizsla in the show, because it's going to have a lot of flashbacks embedded in there. So this is another thing that Pedro has big issues with the character, is that Disney is crafting him into Tar Vizsla 2.0 essentially. Something that Pedro believes will destroy the character from head to toe. The series is also set to focus on Din's path to growing through the ways of the Force that is allowing him to find certain locations in the galaxy. It's said to actually be a later addition for Karl Urban that he will be able to play in the series, that Pedro is not regretting getting let go from the project at all one bit, as he disagreed with the direction and usage of the character. Pedro Pascal also wanted to make it clear to Disney that he also wanted to do more bounty hunting stuff in the Bo-Katan series, something that they are now shying away from. So here's the thing that I think a lot of fans need to know, is the fact that the Bo-Katan series is very much going to be a back and forth scenario. It's going to be a series that takes place in both present time, and it goes way back into the past, to the days of Tar Vizsla, creating the Darksaber, pretty much discovering how he too was Force sensitive and trained through the ways of the Jedi, and became both a Jedi and a Mandalorian, developing that iconic weapon that Mandalore associates itself with. Now, here's the deal about Pedro Pascal, is that we already know that, you know, he's been promoting his newest film, and he's been talking a little bit on and off about The Mandalorian, about the Book of Boba Fett, and his future Star Wars projects that he's working on as well. But this is the one project that he will no longer be involved in, and Karl Urban will in fact be stepping in as Din Djarin to fulfill that role, given that Pedro wanted nothing to do with this edition because he had no interest in playing the character in such a different way, in a sense. That was his overall problem. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with him on that, but that was his overall problem with the direction of the Bo-Katan series, essentially. So, with that being said, guys, you know, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about this entire scenario, because it is a very, you know, delicate situation here when it comes to Pedro's involvement as Din Djarin. Makes you wonder, right? What if these kind of issues happen in other Star Wars projects? It makes you wonder. So, yeah, guys, overall, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know about all this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.